Hi everyone, and welcome back to the next steps in art for everyone. So we are going to be doing a sketch of a baobab tree in graphite, and we can use our charcoal as well. So you're going to use all of your different grades of pencil or your graphite pencils, but starting with your lightest grade. So if you've got a HB, use a HB, or use a 2B to start to sketch. And what we're going to do is we're going to sketch in where our land will finish, or our land meets the sky. So coming across the page like this, just to give us our landscape. Then we are going to bring our tree slightly off center, and we're going to do the base of our baobab first, like this. Now just rub out where your line for your background's going through your baobab tree, and we want to make sure that this is in front of the land, give us a bit of depth. We're not going to do too much on the background, we're just going to get some light shading in there. But to start with our branches, what we're going to do is start with a little one off this side. So it's going to come out, like this, and join onto the side of our tree. So again, we're going to rub out that line where it's going through there. And then we would just want some really fine twiggy branches coming off our tree. Then we're going to bring our next branch up from here, and it's going to go really thin, and we're going to branch off again from this branch, and then we want our little twiggy lines in there as well. Then we're going to start with another one of our main branches in the middle here. So we're going to split this one like so. Now these can be any which way you like them. They don't need to be in the exact same spots as mine at all. Every tree is different. What we do want is for them to go quite thin at the edges. And we're going to pop in another one off this side. Bringing that in like so, and then we're going to branch off the side of this one and doing our little twiggy branches like this. Now we can thicken up these, adding in another arm here. Then we're going to add another smaller little side branch coming off this side of our little baobab. Like so, and erasing where that comes off that branch. Now we want to show that there's some branches in the background of our first main ones. So before we do that though, what we're going to do is we're going to add some shading to our baobab. So we want to shade on all the undersides of our branches. In those crevices. So I haven't swapped pencils yet, I'm still using my light pencil. Then in the back here, we're going to have a branch behind our other branches, and we're going to shade this in quite dark near the base to show that that is behind, putting in our little twiggy branches there. And then we are going to have another one that's going to sit behind here and come up behind this branch. And feather out like all of our others. Beautiful. So now we're going to start to shade our trunk. So the light side of our baobab tree is going to be this side. So we're going to bring our shading from the left side. So I want you to switch to a darker pencil. So switch to a 2B. You could also use a 4B. And what we're going to do is we're going to start to shade from this edge I'm going to shade in this. Onto our branches, darkening up our little twigs. Now, once you've done that much, what I want you to do is just use your finger or your blender, and we're just going to rub that in to our paper. So once you get to your branches, switch to your blender. You could also use cotton buds for this. We want to soften right into our little twigs. Right, now we want to add in some detail to our wood. So baobabs have got that lovely pattern across them, so switching to a 6B or an 8B, whatever's the darkest graphite you have, we're going to come across and we're going to do this pattern. Coming from our darker shading on that side. Now what we're also going to do is then deepen again right along that back edge. So shading in, deepening that edge again, coming into our light side. And then you're coming with strokes across your image. Now what we want to do is either use your finger or your blender, and we're just going to blend that in. Soften that all out. Now what we want to do is work on this side, so still with that dark pencil. We want those little patterns to come from the edge of this side as well. So blending that in, and then we're going to really deepen this shadow again. On the other side, blend, blend, blend. Blend this in. Then we're going to get our eraser and we are going to highlight right along this edge here. Soften with your finger. Then what I want you to do is grab your eraser and cut back into that pattern. I'm using my eraser in a curled motion, so curving that trunk as I'm going, then cleaning up that edge like so, smoothing with a finger. Softening this now as well, coming into the other side of that, shading little strokes with the eraser. Now just tidy up around the edge of the tree as well. You got any fallout there? Beautiful. So you should be starting to get a little bit of shape happening in your tree. So now we're going to work on our branches. So starting again with that darker graphite. On this one here, we're going to just bring that pattern up into our branch, and we want to make sure the other side is detailed as well, and then we're just going to smooth that with our finger. So should have a really dark shadow underneath, so going over that again, and then with your little twigs adding in some extra finer twigs as you go. Now moving up along this side of the tree, so we're going to bring this one up, and again I'm going to put that little pattern through the thicker part of these like so, and we really want to shade right in under here where that branch is going to join onto the tree to give that some shape, and we're really going to deepen behind it, so adding a really good layer to this back branch while you're there behind. Grabbing your blending stick, and we want to blend along that edge. We want to blend that edge, and then we're going to keep going with our twigs, so darkening, adding in our little finer details to give it some extra volume. Again, yours can be bigger, smaller, different shapes. There's no right or wrong. So we're still using our darkest graphite pencil, so still using our 6B or 8B, whichever you have. Now we're going to continue to deepen the shadows on the left side. Still terrible of right and left, sorry, that took me a second to popping in all those finer branches as well, and that little squiggly pattern to imitate the bark coming across our branches. Now we still do need to shade the right side a little bit, we just don't want it as intense. In our twigs, looks a bit empty here, so I'm just popping in another little branch, shading in all those corners really well. using your blending stick or your finger, whichever you prefer as you go. Now with the background for this one, we will want to keep it quite simple, I think, to really make our boab tree pop. So just get this done and then we'll do a nice simple background on this one. You don't have to have any background if you don't want. You can always rub out that original line and just have the boab tree. Wouldn't look bad either when you're doing something this detailed. Shading that one in. So your 5 elements of shading. So you've got your highlight, which on ours would be through this part of our tree. You've got your mid-tones, which are all of this section. So like what we're doing through the main parts of these branches are your mid-tones. So you'll see here, so shade that in. It's our mid-tones there. And then you've got your core shadow. So this is this really dark areas. And then you have any reflected light, which on this so far we would have, you know, where the sunlight is reflecting here and there through the tips of our branches. And then we'll have our cast shadow. So if the light is coming from this section, our highlight is here, our cast shadow will then be behind. But keep going and we will do more about the 5 elements of shading in our little, what's it called? Our little mini lesson after this one. We're going to work on that some more. So if you do that little task I set for you next week, you'll get to do a bit more with the elements of shading, if you're interested. So this back one I've done really nice and dark to show it's behind. But what we also want to do is we still, as the branches get thinner, is still have a bit of a highlight just along this edge because it is back in the light there. So deep shadow in our join. Coming in to the tips of our branches again now. Popping those in, blending with our blending stick. Not forgetting our little pattern. Beautiful, so finishing off these top ones. So it's starting to really take shape now. We've got to do our bottom little branch on this side. So underneath is going to be darker. You're still using that really dark graphite. Making sure this little join at the top is shaded. Then we're going to have the light hitting it pretty much through the middle. Just want to make sure this join is dark, and then blending with our blending stick. Like so. Now what we want to do is just smooth our middle section here where all of our branches join each other. We want to make sure our shadow is all smoothed in. Now we're going to pick up that eraser, and you want to use a corner, and I'm just going to, in a couple of spots, highlight where I've lost a little bit of light. So I want to highlight along the edge of this branch a little bit here, through the top of this one. Just to make those little areas pop a little bit more. Double check all your little twiggy areas, make sure they look nice and full. You could always add in some baobab nuts as well. So I'll just show, this is completely optional, but I'll just show you how they look. So just some little dark circles. I think are a nice little touch here and there. But you don't have to do that. It does look quite cute. Now, see where I've rubbed my hand on the background? I'm just going to get rid of that. And now what we want to do is we want to just have a really simple background. We don't want too much happening at all. I just want it to be nice and light. So what we're going to do for our background is we're going to smudge our pencil line. So it's just this really soft, wispy line that's where our land meets the sky. I'm going to keep the sky white, so make sure you've got no pencil marks in the sky. Tidy up that line above it. So it's just really, really soft. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to add in with our, start with your 2B. Just going to add in a shadow around the base of our tree here. And then we're going to blend that in with our finger. And then we just want to add in some scrub, so just some little bits of grass around the base of our tree. We're just going to blend that in so that's nice and soft. little tufts of grass. Soften those. Then we're going to deepen the shadow with our dark graphite. Soften again. Go over a couple of those little tufts. And then you can sign it and you are done. Make sure you give it a good spray. Get rid of any little bits of eraser. And you've done a beautiful boab drawing. Well done.